Yeah.
We're sitting here right outside the governor's mansion, 5 years since Maria. What's happened since?
You know, you could tell a story of nothing has changed, the power is still out, we're still struggling with a lot of things, but the fact is that we're such a different place, you know, and part of that is politically. We've changed a lot, you know. Ironically, as the power went out, the people became empowered, you know, and people discovered their ability. And you know, the sad part is that we discovered that we really have to rely on ourselves, that there's not going to be any savior coming in, white horse, shining armor, but that we also discovered that we had the ability to take care of ourselves, that we had that strength. We don't necessarily want to. We want a government that responds to us, and that's important. We don't want to over-romanticize that, but I think it really kind of empowered us to take things into our own hands, you know, and to really try to transform Puerto Rico into the place that we deserve. I think after we experienced so much that we didn't deserve during, you know, in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria, we became emboldened and strengthened and said, no, enough of this. We want a different Puerto Rico. And we also decided we're not going to sit back and wait for someone else to do it. We're going to contribute in any small way that we can, you know?
There have been changes socially, politically, culturally. TikTok through some of the things that have changed, gotten better since Maria.
Well, we got rid of a governor, big check, you know, and we also have taken more active voice in the things that we want to see in Puerto Rico. We are protesting a power system that doesn't serve us, that is not also a power company that is not respectful of us, of our culture, of who we are, the language that we want to speak, and the respect that we want to receive from our institutions, our politicians, and also the companies that are here supposedly, you know, providing us a public service.
And you're meaning that at a recent news conference, the head of the now privatized power entity showed up and spoke and had no translator.
Yeah.
He spoke English.
Yeah. How would people in the States feel if a CEO from France came to take over the power company
spoke French,
and there was a massive blackout and he addressed the whole thing in French?
100%.
That would not be accepted, right?
100%.
So that, and he claimed that English was the official language here, and people said, no, it's not, you know, it's not. So I think that people have become emboldened. They're not going to accept, you know, things just as they were. They want something different. There's also been significant changes politically. There's been the emergence of new political parties that are not defined around political status. That's huge. And there's also been increasingly more independent candidates running for elected office and, you know, gaining positions in the government, in the legislature. And that was the last election, was the first time that the governor who won without a majority of votes. He is the governor with the least amount of votes to win. And also we put into place independent politicians that are not affiliated to political parties. So I think there's a big disenchantment with politics as usual. And, you know, for some people, for a lot of people, it feels like the changes are not coming soon enough. But from my perspective, I think the historians of the future will see this as a time of rapid transformation, you know, and there are these symbols like the black and white Puerto Rican flag. Ever since Maria, you see it more and more. Instead of the red, white, and blue flag, the flag has been, the colors have changed.
What does the black and white represent?
So for some people, it's a symbol of mourning. Some people associate it with Maria and the kind of mourning that we still have for those who were gone. For some, it's a symbol of political resistance. Black and white was the color of the original Nationalist Party. And for others, for a lot of us, we're still not sure what it means. It'll be the historians of the future who will be able to say, oh, that flag brought in a new era in Puerto Rico, a new political era where people started to do things differently, to feel things differently, and to imagine things differently for Puerto Rico. There's the flag, there's also the music. The music has changed. The soundtrack of Puerto Rico since Hurricane Maria has been incredibly political. And one of the main voices in that change is Bad Bunny, who rose to fame in 2016, right as Puerto Rico was spiraling into its economic crisis. One of his first big hits outside of Puerto Rico was Estamos Bien, which was the phrase that Puerto Ricans said when people from outside would call them and say, how are you? Are you okay? Estamos bien.
What does that mean?
It means we're okay. But even in the midst of no power, no food, they would say, no, no, estamos bien, estamos bien. That was like what all Puerto Ricans here would tell their families in the diaspora when they called. Don't worry about me, I'm okay.
Bad Bunny may be the biggest hit in music globally.
He is. He's the largest. It's like if the Beatles were from Vega Baja. That's who Bad Bunny is now.
But so much of his music, Yarimar, speaks to the issues on this island.
Yes, yes. You can see his soundtrack, how it chronicles the changes in Puerto Rico. Estamos Bien, all about the hurricane. Afilando Cuchillos was literally the soundtrack of the resistance movement here. It was produced by him and Residente and Ile. And it was playing everywhere in loudspeakers. Then you had PFKNR, P fucking R, which is a different kind of...
What does that mean?
Well, PR with a fucking in the middle.
Got it.
But it's a different kind of assertion of nationalism. So it's not this romantic like, oh, Puerto Rico is so beautiful. It's like, wow, Puerto Rico, it's intense, it's hot. Because he also says, bienvenida al calentón, you know, we're here, we're sweating without power, but wow, our beaches are beautiful, wow, our people are amazing. And you know what, with all the problems, this is where we want to be. And his most recent song, Apagón, which means blackout, it starts being all about the problems with the electric grid and another blackout and how we experience all that. And then it transforms into this plea that he says, we just want to stay here. All I want is to be able to live here. And he says, que se vayan ellos, you know, the people who are pushing us out. They should be the ones to go, we want to stay here. And when he talks about the power, he does it in a way that he says, I'm not an activist. I'm just another Puerto Rican resident who wants better from the governor and who wants to be able, you know, for some of us, we want to be able to power our life-saving devices, or we want to be able to run our small businesses. He wants to be able to have his huge, massive concerts, you know, but that's his form of just doing his job. He just wants to live his life and do his job in Puerto Rico, and he recognizes as a young Puerto Rican how difficult that is.
I never heard a single human being talk to me about Puerto Rico before Hurricane Maria.
I believe it.
Never. After Hurricane Maria, people stopped me practically daily to ask me about what's happening in Puerto Rico.
Yes. You know, it's a weird positive of Hurricane Maria is that it put Puerto Rico in the public consciousness in a way that it had never been before. And I experienced it directly as a young student when I had, you know, fellowships and internships. I would have to pull out a map and show people that I came from this island and they didn't know anything about it.
And they're U.S. citizens.
Yeah. And so I appreciate that a lot of non-Puerto Ricans in the U.S. have suddenly become more interested in knowing about Puerto Rico and in understanding what is its relationship to the United States. And I think they're also interested in supporting Puerto Ricans in resolving their issues. And I think the message is, yes, continue to support us. We have a lot to figure out still of how the society that we want to create and what path we want to go down. And we don't want you to solve those problems for us. We want you to just support us and recognize that we want to change our place. We want to change our country, our land, the society that we live in, and just help us do that. But let us do it. Let us define what we want Puerto Rico to be in the future.